Good morning and welcome to Action Coach and the Progress Shed. And this morning we've got an amazing session for you. So looking forward to this immensely, and coming through these difficult times, leading your business forward is one of the key elements that really, for every business leader, regardless of your role, is something that everyone needs to really focus on. And Hélio has been a guest with us before, has been building up his new keynote, well known all across the world for his talking on leadership, and at this point probably more important than ever. So we are delighted to be introducing a global first in the form of Hélio's new keynote speech, and feedback we'd love. And in terms of that, please email any feedback straight through to us at info@theprogressshed.com, and that will get fielded and shared. And beyond that, Hélio, the stage is yours. So I will remove myself, and we'll hide everyone other than you, and you have the ability to share, etc. So when you're ready.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks for the introduction.
And as you said, we're now having new restrictions. You guys over in the UK, I'm in Germany right now, but you guys over in the UK, you're gonna have more restrictions coming up right now, and some people are talking about a second lockdown or something like this. But that's not the only problem in the business. That's not the only times in business that we get put under stress. Sometimes we get under stress with the riots, with on more normal circumstances, crises that are happening, like the 2008 crisis, or crises that happen in our sectors and our industry. So, and even hard to deal with people in our business get us under stress. Stress is a constant part of the business. So I'm going to share with you now here is not going to be a model of decision making that you're going to use under stress, because you already have a good decision making model, I'm assuming, if your business were doing well before the crisis, and if you're going into any crisis, if you can keep the same decision making model but apply with the same efficiency, then you're good. The problem is most of the time when we see the hurricane, the worst thing we can do is be nervous, but that's what we do. We get we lose our direction. We end up trying to protect ourselves instead of doing what is the safest thing, for example, for a plane to do in a hurricane. If they're trying to stay near a tornado, is actually go right through the tornado wall, and get into the eye. That's why we have the saying, the eye of the hurricane is the calmest part, because it really is. So what I'm going to share here right now is going to be to help you get into this state where you're in a place that, although all the hell is breaking loose around you, you can actually be calm and make decisions based on your intuition or on your decision-making models, and leave the littlest part possible towards the emotion side, which is going to be agitated. Because when we see things happening and we get nervous, we do stupid things. Like, for instance, I live here right now in a city, in a countryside of Germany. And what happened was, a few weeks ago, we got a letter in the mail from the local neighborhood mayor. I don't know how politics in Germany work, but somehow like a neighborhood mayor or something like that, saying that because the city, due to Corona, couldn't have the annual party that they have, he was going to be organizing in our neighborhood a Corona party. Not a Corona party per se, but the city party, but in our neighborhood. And everyone from the city was coming to this neighborhood. And it was crazy. It was raining, it was pouring rain, and it was full of people. And everyone was stuck underneath the little tents that people set up for people to eat, because people just couldn't miss the opportunity of having a party. And here's a photo. I couldn't take a photo earlier on, but here's a photo of 9 p.m. So you can see how the crowd is still have not dying down. If this is at around 9 p.m., imagine how much it was, how many people there was when this thing was 2 p.m. It was crowded. It was crowded. People were just not thinking when they created this neighborhood party. And that's not something that's for the rednecks of Germany they're doing. We see that in business a lot. Like this law firm in the UK start doing that rubber band thing that you say how okay you are with people getting close to you. The problem with that, and the person who posted this on LinkedIn, she got a lot of backlash because of that, especially because being a law firm, they should have understood the regulations. The regulations in the UK was that you have to keep a minimum of 2 meters, except in circumstances that essential workers of yours cannot keep 2 meters. And then only then you're allowed to have it 1 meter distancing. And the person created those rubber band systems that is all, okay, the next hype and all that. There was like, it was a fad a few years ago in the business and all that, in conferences. And they created big trouble for themselves, because I hope they have a really good relationship with other law firms, because otherwise another law firm can just like carry out this proof that they generated and get them in trouble. And so when we get nervous, when we get those situations of stress, we try to come up with things, or decision-making more processes are not the best because we get all clouded. But there are also circumstances where people are doing really, really well when it comes down to, for instance, this crisis. Well, like the hand sanitizers that were created by liquor companies. Like they had all the licenses, they have all the process, all the equipment. The only thing they needed to do was to buy different bottles and shift the process slightly. And they did that, and they made a really good amount of money that allowed them to stay afloat while this crisis was in the beginning and their sales were plummeting. And now that the things are more regulated, most liquor companies actually abandoned this and they are focused on the core of their business. But because they could think clearly when the crisis hit, they were able to do a lot better and get some sorts of income and keep their business afloat. And of course, as I said, there's not only one type of crisis. There's not a corona crisis or the riotings or all those things. There are crises every day in business and in life. And we all know a really famous decision-making on crisis as well, when it comes down to the Hudson River, when the pilots had to land in there. And if you think about it, that was a great show of decision-making under stress, because the tower was telling them, turn around and land it. It was like 5 minutes away from the airport. They were on the opposite direction. And the pilot and the co-pilot, they had to make a decision. They had to say, like, are we going to go back to the airport, or are we going to land on the river, or are we going to try to go to another airport, or what are we going to do? We're in the middle of New York. We cannot just find an empty field like that. And they use an heuristics in aviation, which is like they try to see on the horizon how fast they were going down instead of trusting the equipment. Because when they were seeing how fast they were going down through the visual, they could make a faster calculation if they could go around and land in the airport, or if they would have to go in the river. And that calculation was essential, because where they landed, it was proof that they wouldn't be able to land in the airport. So there are always times when people think about, they do good things in stress, under stress, and other times they don't. And in aviation, since we're talking about it, that's a serious problem, because 80% of plane crashes, the pilot actually that is flying the airplane is the first officer, is the commander, is the chief pilot, let's say. But why is that surprising at all? The surprising thing is that 50% of the time, the first commander or the pilot is flying, and 50% of the time the co-pilot is flying. Not like 50% of the time when they are piloting, but let's say if a pilot goes from Germany to the UK, the co-pilot is going to fly from Germany to the UK, and the pilot is going to fly the way back. So it's always like that. But the problem is that causes 80% of the accidents being with the pilot, which is the most experienced one, is a simple thing that's called in aviation CRM, the crew resource management. What is that? It's like how you deal with people, because there was a big study in aviation saying that whenever the pilot is flying, the first officer is flying, the co-pilot, because they are afraid, because they're smaller, they have less experience, they have less power in the company, let's say, all the politics make them shy off and not like really talk back to the first officer, to the pilot. But when the co-pilot is flying, the pilot has the guts to reprimand, to say other things, and because of that, there are more accidents that have been saved because the pilot actually rebuking the co-pilot, in situations where the pilot would be flying, the co-pilot would rebuke for the same decision. And that's why it's important to have a safer environment and think clearly under stress. And that's what we're going to cover here today. But first, before we do anything like that, I need to show you a little bit of a misconception that people have between what is a risky decision and what is a dangerous decision. And that misconception, I'm gonna give you a story that you some of you might already know. So I'm gonna be very short on that, which is the story of FedEx. We all know FedEx being this big company, the worldwide power, this multi-billion-dollar company, but they did not start like that. They started with very little planes, and the company was really struggling in the beginning. The company had a lot of problems with credit, and like having to operate in a day with planes on the road to deliver 5-7 packages. There was obviously draining all the money from the company. And there were times that pilots were paying for the fuel out of their own credit cards because the company couldn't afford. And there was a moment in time that the FedEx had the turning point, let's say, the point that was crucial for FedEx history, which they only had about $5,000 in the bank, and they had to pay at least $25,000 in order to survive. And they had like 2 days to do that. And what did the CEO from FedEx did? Instead of trying to get a loan because he tried already and did not manage, instead of just going for routes or just declaring bankruptcy, he picked up all his money, he flew to Vegas, he bet on the blackjack table all night, and he made $25,000. And as soon as he got $25,000, he pulled out and he paid the bills so the company could operate for 1 more week. And because of that, he used that story as well with investors to get investment and all that, and he ended up making the company into what it is today. So we always thinking about, oh, that was a dangerous decision. You shouldn't simply go and bet the company's money into a blackjack table. It's actually illegal even. But the CEO of FedEx, he did not have any choice. Think about it. He would either declare bankruptcy, or he would pick up this money and bet and maybe get it back and maybe make the company survive. So he was in this point that he had to take the decision, and what the decision he took to bet in a blackjack table, it is really a really risky decision. If you count the odds and the probabilities, it is a risky decision. But it wasn't a dangerous decision because the company was going down. So if you lose all the money, you wouldn't have changed. Maybe one creditor wouldn't have gotten the money, but in the point of of the survival of the company wouldn't make any difference. Excuse me. And that's why he took the decision, and the decision wasn't dangerous. And I'm gonna give you another example, so you can see how the difference between danger and risk in other areas of life. Like, for instance, water. Water in the sea is a hazard. You can drown in any amount of water that's bigger than your head. So water is per se is dangerous. But here's the thing: surfing is not dangerous. Surfing is dealing with the hazard of the water in a way that the risk is there and the danger is there, but the danger is so low that it becomes a risky sport. It doesn't become necessarily a dangerous sport. People call it a dangerous sport, but it's not a dangerous sport. It's a risky sport. What is dangerous, though, is going to the sea without knowing how to swim, or without knowing how to swim at sea. Because that's a mistake that a lot of people make. Even in Brazil, an Olympic swimmer drowned in the Copacabana beach, one of the most famous beaches in Brazil, because he did not know how to deal with the sea. He was trusting his skills as a swimmer. He was a great swimmer. He was a fast swimmer, but he did not know how to deal with currents and tides and all that. And once he got caught in the current, it took him out, and he was fighting, and he got exhausted, and he died. So you might think, oh, for him, for a professional swimmer, going to the sea is not risky, but it is, because he doesn't know how to deal with the hazard. And the same thing comes from heights, for instance. Falling from a height is dangerous in itself. Now, it is risky. It would be to work with all the safety equipment in. That's a risky word. What if the ropes they're not correctly secure, or they tear, and then you're gonna fall? Yeah, but there's a risk in there, but the chances of that happening is very little. Now, it's dangerous when you ignore the risk, and then you just put the people there working without any safety equipment. That would be a dangerous decision. So in business, it's the same thing. There are things that are risky, and there are things that are dangerous. And it's really important for you to make this distinction, because it is the core of what you do. If you're thinking something is dangerous, something that is only risky, your emotional side is going to be riled up. You're not going to be able to actually take the decisions from a calm standpoint, from a solid, firm standpoint. You're going to be like extinguishing fires. And if something is not dangerous and you make it dangerous, it is one of the worst things you can do, because you could make a sensible decision, a calm, sensible, irrational decision, becomes an irrational decision that later on you think, why the heck did I do that? Why the heck did I get this loan? Why the heck didn't I get this loan? Why the heck I hired these people? Because you're riled up in a moment. And that's why you see a lot of companies that they are growing so fast, they make so much mistakes, because they put pressure on themselves to make decisions, and that they have to take those decisions not from the calm standpoint that allow them to grow so fast, but from a hurried standpoint that they end up being their Achilles heel. That's why it's important for us to know how we're gonna deal with the emotions. And let's do a test here right now, okay? How can we make decisions under stress? Let's do a test. There's 1,000 balls, and Peter and Nigel, you can participate with that. We're gonna do a simple math problem here, so you can tell me. Imagine there's 2 buckets with 1,000 balls of different colors, one blue, one red. So we have simple rules. You take 20 balls from the blue basket and put into the red basket, and then 20 from the red and into the blue. And you're gonna do that like 15 times. In the end, which basket will have more of the opposite color in it? Peter, what do you think? Making a quick math in your head right now. What is the decision you think is gonna be? What is gonna be the answer? Nigel?
I think they'll be equal.
It'll be equal. And Peter? Is Peter here?
Yeah, we're going with equal as well because you've kind of moved 20 each way, unless you're moving.
Now the opposite color. Like which best is gonna have more of the opposite color?
So they should have the same.
The same. Good. You guys are actually great. I did that with CIOs and there's always this debate on what to do, but in the end it's the same because let's say there's 30 balls or red balls in the blue basket. It's gonna have also 30 balls in the red basket because the amount is the same. But when put into pressure, what people think is, oh, it's gonna end up being more of the blue one because the blue one was already there and could get it back. And we lose sometimes. You guys like are common and very good at this. Normally what I see is that people are still thinking that the blue one gets more. And that's a heuristic. Let's use another example, for instance. If you know that there's 10 tickets for a raffle and you buy one, there's 10% of chances, like most people would buy. 10% chances is really good chances. But if you know that one person bought 9 tickets, to buy one is the same 10%, but somehow, because we are looking at other people's chances, we think, oh, they have 90% of chances, and I only have 10%. So they have 9 times more chances than I do, so I don't buy. But if there's the same amount of chances to have one, it suddenly feels fairer and it feels like our chances are increased when the same is not true. Or another example was when I was doing inspection on the car right now. I went to do the inspection on the car, and it happened that this year the inspection on the dealer was going to be twice as much as normal. So I was like, that's too expensive. So let me look around to other mechanics and see if a body shop could make it cheaper and still do good quality. And I found a body shop that was doing like 120, 130 bucks less. It's like not that much, but I decided to go across the city in a half an hour drive in order to do the inspection there to save 130 bucks. But when I was buying the car, I did not search around on other dealerships 30 minutes away to see if I could find the same car for 130 bucks less. So in the end, it's the same 130 bucks, but because the amount is smaller, it suddenly is more impactful than when the amount is bigger. That's a fallacy that we normally do it when we are thinking about making a decision like that out of the blue. And that's why we need to create parameters to make a decision when we are going to be under stress, because we're going to have those moments that we're not going to think straight to make a decision based on solid logic. So we're going to have the emotion, and it's okay to have the emotion. We're guided by emotion, and we make the best decisions with gut feelings. But when the stress is around, those emotions get right up in the wrong way. We get too much cortisol in our body, and the cortisol kind of like clouded us. So that's one of the advantages that men have in decision making under stress is the testosterone. If you have a high level of testosterone, you end up blocking the cortisol, and it makes you still take a more solid decision. Not that women don't have other ways. I'm going to talk a little bit later on how women can do that. But with men, we have this advantage of the testosterone. But now let's say how you can actually get better at making decision making under pressure. Like, you always seen, if you've seen surfing movies from the 90s, you've probably seen this image a lot, like people running under the water with carrying a heavy rock under the sea, because that's how you develop your lungs to stay longer than underwater. And I never paid too much attention on that. Most of the times when I was surfing, I was not surfing in environments like in Hawaii, where you have a big reef underneath you, that your leash from your board could get trapped there, and you could get a big time under the water. That was never my reality. Whenever I had was surfing in a reef, I would do a little bit of preparation beforehand with my lungs and all that, but never to the extreme of carrying big rocks under the water. But one time I actually experienced why it's important for a surfer to develop their breath. One time I was surfing with my friends, and it was already an unusual day of pretty big waves. So a beach that normally had 100, 200 people surfing, there was only 20 people surfing. And actually about 21, there was like 16 of us in one point, let's say 100 meters from the sand line. And there were 5 of us, 5 other surfers actually, on let's say 150 meters away from the beach line, because they had longer boards which allowed them to pick up the wave a lot earlier. And surfing was great. Like, everyone was having so much fun. We're having a great time, the time of our lives almost. Until a time that those 5 people that were further away, they start pedaling even further away. They're going like pedaling in very fast. So when we saw that, we knew what was coming. There was coming a wave that was like the double of the size of that day. So all of us started pedaling like crazy to try to get beyond the wave, so the wave don't crash on us. And I was pedaling like crazy. I was like, but I didn't avoid. I couldn't avoid the wave crashes. So the first wave crashed on me. And as I went down, I felt like I was inside of a washing machine. That's how strong it was. It was like being thrown every way. And whenever you're thrown like that, what happened is you lose the sense of where is up and where is down. So I remember trying to climb up. I had to recover my senses so I could actually go up and get out. And when I was about to get out, when I was like this, I barely could put my nose over the water to breathe, and the second wave was straight on me. And I took the second wave. And on the time I tried to get up after the second wave, my nose couldn't go above the water so I could breathe, and the third wave already crashed on me. So when it crashed, because my lungs were a little bit developed, I had the choice to say, you know what? I'm not going up right now. I'm gonna open my eyes. I'm gonna count the waves. I know that after 5 waves, there's not gonna be any more of those huge waves. Gonna be normalized. So I took down. I stayed down, breathing anxiously, but the other 2 waves passed down, and I was able to grab to swim up, grab my board, and the first thing I want to do is I need to go to the sand. I need to take a time to calm down, and I was very ashamed. I was thinking, like, what a loser I am. Like, I'm gonna be leaving because of a wave. But when I saw on the sand, like 15 of us were on the sand, relaxing and calming down. Only one person that was in the position that we were actually stayed inside, because we were not prepared for that level. It scared us tremendously. But the thing is, because the waves were already big beforehand, there were only people there with a certain level of surfing. But it was a scary thing, and it showed how actually being prepared for the moment of stress allow you to stay calm in the eye of the hurricane, or to stay calm when those huge waves are dropping tons of waters or right on your head. And you don't see that only on surfing. You see that a lot in Navy SEAL trainings or any specialized Army training, where, let me show you the picture, like, where people are dropped into a pool with handcuffs and also leg cuffs. So they have to swim even though they don't have their limbs, so they can keep their calm, so they can try to get out and all of that, because it is dangerous. And when you do those things, you start to being calmer under pressure. And that's the main thing that we need to do. We need to develop those situations. And that's why now I'm going to be talking about other ways you can do to develop the situations. one of the things you can do to be calmer under stress, since I was talking about testosterone, it is to do anaerobic exercises, like things like fighting, weightlifting. All those things are going to raise your level of testosterone, which is going to allow you to like block a little bit of the cortisol that's going to come in the situation. Another thing you can do, it is to do aerobic exercise like running and swimming and all that, because it's going to allow your body to have more oxygenation. Whenever you're breathing, you're going to breathe more oxygen, and it's going to allow you to think clearly as well. It's not going to block the cortisol per se, but it's going to allow you to think clear, even though you have this clouded vision. And that is really important. And another thing you can do is what I call progressive overload. Well, a lot of us don't like stress. We avoid stress. We try to run away from stress, but in truth, the people who take better decisions is the people who get more decisions done in more stressful situations more often. So everything is going to be more natural when it comes. So if you want to get a better decision making under stress, one of the things you can do is start putting like tighter deadlines on things that are not necessarily crucial. What that's gonna do is gonna generate that little stress on you, and your body is gonna get used to that. You shouldn't be doing that every day, because otherwise you're gonna get burned out. But if you can do that very often and increase the time that actually increase intensity over time, that's gonna allow you to have this calmness, this centeredness whenever you are faced with a big decision on a stressful situation. Like the same thing with the Navy SEALs or the surfers. If you can pick it up, something that is that is uncomfortable for you to do, and you can start doing more often, and then later on you do something a little bit more risky, that's going to help you develop that. And that's a great example from this letter from Jeff Bezos in 2008 to their stockholders, to shareholders. I'm not going to go very in depth into it because we don't have that much time. But what I'm going to talk about here is some points that he wrote that is exceptional. Like me as a risk expert, I couldn't be put it in better words. That's why I always quote his letter when I'm talking about this, because it is amazing. And here's what he says. As a company grows, everything needs to scale, including the size of failed experiments. What he's saying is to shareholders is, look, as Amazon grows, we're going to do more, have more failure. We're going to take more risky decisions, and like not everything is going to be winning. And he says he says that if the size of the failures isn't growing, you're not inventing at the size that you actually need to move the needle. So he says that Amazon will be experimenting at the right scale for a company of its size, even if occasionally they have multi-billion-dollar failures. Think about it. The CEO is telling the shareholders, hey, we're going to have multi-billion-dollar failures. And that's why Amazon is growing at such a fast pace. Because if you think about it, they had a lot of failed experiments. You have the Fire Phone, you have those dash buttons, you have several, they have Amazon Eat, which was kind of like the Uber Eats. You had something for clothing as well. So they tried out several different things, which was like not small failures, not like a startup failure, like a few millions. It's like billions of dollar failures. With the Fire Phone, for instance, they tried to create something to compete with Android and iOS, and they failed because it was hard to get developers interested in creating apps for the phone and all that. And it was a huge failure, multi-billion. But what came out of that was Alexa, which a lot of people have in their homes today, and helps with, they have the sales of the Alexas per se, but also it helps a lot to sell other things through the Amazon platform. And it was a huge success for Amazon, the Alexa. But that's why that only happened because of they tried to get this monumental failure of the Fire Phone. And the other thing it says is we would work to make hard bets, good bets, but they're not gonna pay out. Most of them are not gonna pay out. So it's very open, and that we need to understand that as well. If we want to take risky decisions, we need to know that they might not pay out. And I think that I always share with like private clients, which is like we need you to make decisions. If it's a decision that can be undone very quickly, we should make that decision quickly. But if the decision is hard to undo later on, then we need to think about more often. So, for instance, it is an investment decision that's going to cost initially, 0.5% of your yearly revenue. That might be something you need a couple weeks to think about it and make the decision. But if it's a merging decision where you're gonna buy another company with that's similar to yours, like I had a client a couple years ago, which they bought their main competitor. That's a big decision. That's a decision you cannot undo very easy, and it's a decision that costs like 50% of the company was worth or something. Then the decision had to be a lot longer to be made, and there's a lot more intricacies because it's not only doing the merger per se, but you have to make the partners work out together. Both companies have creditors, they have clients, they have this whole logistics system that they had to integrate very slowly. So that those kind of decisions, they are better to be taken slowly. So we need to think about, like, am I giving the necessary amount of thought for this decision? Or am I overthinking this decision or underthinking this decision? Because that's one of the main things when the stress comes is some people, they underthink it and they go, oh, I know what I'm going to do. We're going to do this. Another way is other people, they are overthinking, like, oh, it's a big decision. Blah. This can happen. What if I lose this much? And they never take the decision. And that's the worst kind of decision you can make, to postpone. And another thing you can do to really go over, and let's say you got your decision that is extremely hard, you have to do it, but you don't want to do it right now. You want to play, I don't want to think about it, I'm going to postpone. One of the great things you can do is act as if you made a decision. What I mean by that is create a contingency plan. Make sure that if in the future you need to take this decision, everything is going to be in place. You have a whole plan in place so you can act out as quickly as you can. Like a great example of that was this company in Brazil that they're stockbrokers pretty much. And they had 2,500 employees. And the owner kind of knew that, like, hey, remote working is something we need to do it. But like, he was afraid of doing it, so he was pulling back and all that. And when the lockdown started, the good thing for his company was that he had a contingency plan. He said, like, if we ever need to put remote working in place, let's do it. Let's create a plan for that. And he created a plan. And if you look in here, he said, like, in 3 days, in 5 days, he was able to put 2,500 people into remote working. Think about if he did not have that plan. He would have to close his business, let's say, for 2-3 weeks. That would be like 14, 16 more days that he would have lost money. See the blessing it is to actually look at and one decision that you don't want to do it, and at least plan out if in case in the future you need it. Like it might be a bailout plan, it might be a merging plan, it might be a loan plan, it might be remote working, it might be several other things that might be in your mind. There's something that might be in your mind that you know you have to do it, but you're not quite sure. At least plan out so seriously that if you change your mind tomorrow, you can actually implement that in a heartbeat. Because that in this way you still postpone the decision, so you don't touch it until you can handle it, but you do it in a way that it's not going to affect you. It's not going to be damaging you later on, and that is the importance of it. And another really important thing is getting buy-in from your stakeholders. Think about it. How can you get buy-in from your stakeholders? Because making the decision is easy. According to McKinsey, the biggest problem the companies have is to make people know about a decision made in a way that it's good. Not just arriving at your employees and say like, "Hey, Tim, that's what's going on. That's what we're gonna do. We made this decision." No, but like give them an overview, an in-depth view, in order for them to be able to act on accordingly. Because just saying something is not gonna get them the right way. Like if I say I have this dynamic on my leadership presentations, which I get some people on stage to with a piece of paper, and I give them the piece of paper in different positions, and they close their eyes, and I give them some commands like fold the paper and tear this part out and fold this way, fold this way. I give the same command for everyone. Everyone's doing it together. But in the end, what happens is everyone gets a different paper because they tear it in some areas and they fold it in a different way. Everyone has a final product that's different. Because sometimes we think we're giving clear commands, we get clear directions, but it's not really. We need you to understand the reality, the filter that the person is going to have before they take actions, because otherwise there's going to be a lot of work trying to fix the things because of a bad management of the decision. So we're talking about making a decision of distress being important, but equally important, if not more, is managing that decision once that has been made. And you see great examples of that with Starbucks when they had the crisis in 2008. How the great leadership example of the owner and CEO, which was like, "Hey, I want everyone to cut down their salaries. We need people to cut down in order to be able to survive this crisis." So he picked up and he said, "You know what? I'm getting my own salary down to I think it was $10,000 or $14,000 a year, so I can keep my health insurance. But I don't ask you to cut down your salary that much. I'm asking you to see if we could cut down 10, 20%, whatever it is, so we all can survive this together." And by giving the example, he was able to manage other people's emotion a lot better, and a lot of the Starbucks employee took in this pay cut without any problem, because they knew that they were being supported by the CEO. They knew the other people were doing that, and they were more willing to do so. And that is the thing. Like the managing the decision is most important. It's equally important. And if you're stressed out, if you make the decision but you're still overthinking the decision, what is going to happen is you're not going to be able to implement that decision that well. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much. And now it's with you, Peter.
Brilliant session. So I think the number of lessons coming through there was huge. ranging from the understanding that actually we're all in our own boat, as Philip Hesketh put it so many weeks ago, to actually sometimes you'll put yourself at increased risk even when you think you're doing the right thing, with the rubber bands being a great example thereof. Running through this understanding of knee-jerk decisions and the emotional decisions, backing them up with that, but then living with those decisions and actually pushing them forward. So some great clear lessons, I think, for everybody there. And we've actually asked people to offer feedback over the course of the week as we get the rewatches and so on. If anyone's got